Let's look at the modules. And we're going to be working here from now on 3D AutoCAD. So some of the basic tools that we have to work in 3D are this: 3D Orbit, UCS Icon, UCS, Viewport, and ViewCube. So let's talk about that. So remember that when we start working with AutoCAD 3D, we are actually going to open a new template, and that's called the AutoCAD 3D template. So you go to Drawing, select ACAD 3D, and open. That brings you on the 3D model, and then on this 3D model, we are going to um, make sure that it's a parallel view, and then zoom all, and then make sure also right click that it is the home view. Another thing we need to do on 3D AutoCAD is, of course, to select the 3D workspace. And so I'm going to do workspace, bottom right corner, select 3D basics. And now we're ready to create geometry in AutoCAD. So there are some tools here that we need to look at. Remember that we can navigate with the view cube around. We can get back to home. And if I maximize this, in the navigation bar, you see this orbit tool. And this is called the 3D orbit. And it allows you to rotate your space and move around as you want to. Let's create a little box here, and then we'll see how that works. Okay, and so now we're going to go back to 3D orbit. And there it is, right? That's found here in the navigation bar, right? So click on that, 3D orbit. Now, what if you click on free orbit? It allows you to move around the axis defined by this circle. Of course, the object is where it needs to be, right? And then what's the next one called continuous orbit? So that one is a really interesting one because it allows you to set kind of animation motion of the object. Like that, right? And we stop, go back to home, and we're going back on the home view. So 3D orbit allows us to rotate and visualize our objects. So let's see what the right answer should be. 3D Orbit provides interactive viewing in 3D with the mouse. Right-click to display viewing options. And so we find that in the 3D here, right? And you can right-click to see more options. UCS icon. What is the UCS icon? UCS icon refers to a system variable, and also it allows us to display the icon or not, right? And so the UCS icon is this object here. And so if I type UCS icon, then I can turn it off or on or bring it to the origin as I need to. So this is another tool that I have available in AutoCAD to visualize on 3D. So now the UCS icon is not there. Type UCS icon again, and you can turn it on. Now you can also define what the origin of the UCS icon is. Relative to what you're working on. So for now, it's just good to know that that controls the visibility of the object, right? The icon for the UCS coordinate system. And when we talk about UCS in AutoCAD 3D, remember that anytime we need to create geometry in AutoCAD, that geometry can be created by using 2D profiles. And for us, that's particularly useful, right? Because I can have profiles like this that are XREF'd into my drawing. Or I can just copy the profile. So let me open this XREF. And now I am going to copy this object. So, oh, that's another XREF. So I'm going to open it again. And that's the one. So I'm going to right click, clipboard, copy with base point. This is my base point. And now I go to the new drawing, right? And I am going to right click, clipboard, paste, paste right there. And so I have that particular object there. So this is a 2D profile, right? And so if I want to create geometry, I need to bring this 2D profile. But see, when I brought this profile in, it comes into the work plane defined by X and Y. And so that's always the case, right? AutoCAD only works on X and Y in terms of creating 2D geometry. And I can use 2D geometry to generate my 3D shapes. But I need to always remember that if I want to do that, I need to be on the workspace defined by X and Y. Now that said, we can modify the X and Y workspace. So look at the UCS icon there. X and Y is now located on the floor. Let me delete this and let's pretend that we're going to bring that on a side wall. If I wanted to bring an elevation. So what I'll do now is I will rotate the UCS. I can change the UCS by rotating in one of the axes here. So for example, I can rotate the UCS on the X axis. So I'm going to do that. Click on that. And then how much do I want to rotate it? See, it's rotating around the red point. So I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. And so now my UCS is on kind of standing up. If I clipboard paste again, now this time, this object is kind of standing up. So this will be ideal to bring in some other content, for example, an elevation. So let me open a new drawing here and see if I can bring up that elevation. All right, and so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this elevation, clipboard copy with base point, maybe here. And now I'm going to go to this drawing and clipboard paste. And now click the elevation. Now, let me now rotate the UCS back to the tool, the home. There are two ways to get back to home. I could just click here and go to UCS, WCS, that's short for World UCS, or I could go back to rotate on the x-axis and get back to where I was before. And so now see, I am back on the X and Y on the floor. But this remains kind of standing up as the elevation. If I look up here, you can see that this object is actually an elevation view. And I could start creating geometry to on this axis with this elevation. And that's what the UCS is all about, right? If I create a box here, then in order for me to work on any particular of these sides of the object, I need to modify the UCS. And probably the fastest way to modify UCS is by using the 3-point UCS, right? I select 3-point, click where I want the 0 to be, X and Y. So now I am at the top of this object. Or I could do, again, repeat 3-point UCS, 0, X, and Y. And now I'm back on kind of a vertical UCS location. And that's where I want to be if I wanted to bring an elevation drawing in. Now remember that you have elevation drawings and plan drawings. So I'm going to go back to the World UCS. I'm back on the floor here. And maybe now I could bring that other drawing, the floor plan. So I'm going to open, see if I have it here. So I am going to open and I'm going to select the floor plan this time. And I am going to copy and paste, right? My floor plans, right click, clipboard, copy with base point, maybe that. And then I go back here and make sure that your UCS is where you need it to be. Always, you need to check that. If you don't check the UCS, then you don't know what you're gonna end up with. And then you right click, paste, and that's on the floor. See, I'm gonna do a undo here. 1 second. And what I want to do actually is rotate that object. So what I'm going to do is first insert it as a block, and then I can rotate it so that it matches the elevation, and then I can move it back. Oh, I rotated too much. So I'm going to rotate it again like that, and then move it. And this is kind of how you would like to bring your objects into place. So I'm going to move this floor plan now so that it matches the elevation drawing. So now I have the floor plan in the right place and the elevation in the right place to start creating geometry. And of course, I need to be better than this because I should have done and let me see if I can do that from here, created these drawings without annotations. Remember, that's an important phase or part of the process of organizing our drawings in the diagram, is that we create the drawings without any annotations so that we can later use those drawings for any other purposes without having to worry about them having too many annotations. In this particular case, once again, let me get back here, and I am going to explode this block. And now I can turn layers on and off. So let's see if I can go to Home and Layers and Views. Or I can do it directly from here to select which layers are off and which layers are on. So let's do all the annotations off, all the dimensions, and all rep clouds. And see, now I get a simpler drawing. Let's see, what layer is this? That's area identity, and that shouldn't be, but that's the case it is. Let's go here and turn that off as well. And once you do that, then you can connect the two drawings that they need to be, right? And so I'll do it the opposite way this time. Bring that to there. And so that's the elevation on that. But what I want to illustrate here is that this elevation is on a different work plane. See, the floor is on the floor now. And so if I go to the top, we'll see the floor, but then we don't see the elevation, right? Because the elevation is on the side. And we achieve that by manipulating the UCS as needed to create the views that we want. Now, again, if you have drawn the floor elevations of your object, you can bring the floor elevations to match the sides of the floor plan and then create the geometry from there. And so that's what the UCS allows us to do, is to control the work plane that we use in the program. All right, so let's move to the next. When working in an AutoCAD 3D, it's not a bad idea to remember that we have different possibilities for viewports as we continue to work on AutoCAD. And I'm going to move to a different workspace now. So we've been working on the Basics 3D workspace, but this is a really, really basic workspace. So we can move to another one that is the complete 3D modeling workspace. So go to the workspace dialog box here at the bottom, select 3D modeling. And now we see a more advanced workspace that allows for more options. And we have different viewport options that we have here in the AutoCAD screen, right? We could have one viewport, or we could have multiple viewports as we continue to work in AutoCAD. So let's type viewport. And then we get this basic viewport tool, and we could have, for example, 3 viewports. And so that's one of the options that we could have when working with AutoCAD 3D, so that in one particular viewport, we have the floor plan. In other viewport, we have the elevation. And in the other viewport, we have the 3D object, so that when we create geometry, we can see it being created everywhere. For example, if I go here and I say, okay, I want to create particular shape, but maybe I want to create this wall, right? And so I'm going to do a press pull. Remember, press pull, click inside that. And to create press pull, you really need to make sure that you know where your UCS is. So I'm going to select 3-point UCS, click here X and Y. And now let's do press pull. Really close to that. And now you have this object. That's the wall that we want to create. We're going to create that wall to be 8 feet. 8 feet is 96 inches. I don't have the inches yet, so done, right? And so see how it gets created here, but you see it here and you see it there. Let's do it again. Let me set the units to feet and inches so we're clear on that. And now we're going to do the same. Press pull. Bring your cursor so that you can select that. Press pull. Select the boundary. And see how we can create that, and then it's visible on all the views. Right there, and right there. So that allows us to see what we're doing from different point of views at the same time. Then if you want to go back to a single UCS, just a single viewport. Let's see where the viewports are. I'm just going to type viewport. I need to find out where you could go to viewports, press enter, and then select single viewport. And click OK. And now you go back on a single viewport there. View manager, there it is. All right, so that's regarding the UCS and the viewports. Now, once again, remember that on the upper right corner, you see the view cube. That's a tool that allows you to manipulate your 3D space visualization, right? You can see where you are at all points in time. And back home, make sure that it's a parallel view. You can set it at home. And then you can select which views you want to look at. Or you can go back to home and 3D. So these are the basic moves that you can have in AutoCAD 3D. Let's answer the questions that we have. What are the 3 axes in the Cartesian coordinate system? The 3 axes are X, Y, and Z. And you can see that here in the UCS. Let me do UCS world. And now you can, it's easier to see the UCS icon now in the origin. Oh, something's not working out here. And the UCS icon is right here, so you can see the three axes here, X, Y, and Z. UCS. Okay. Not responding. It's not responding, so I'm going to get out of here. Then that one is. Okay, so next, in which direction from the page does the z-axis normally project? What they're talking about here is when we have a view like this, and you look at the UCS icon, where is the z-axis pointing to? And the answer is pointing out of the screen, see, perpendicular to the screen. In which plane are two-dimensional drawings constructed? That was the other question. Well, they're constructed on X and Y, right? That's the answer. X and Y define the 2D geometry. Which axis normally represents the height of objects? The right answer there will be the z-axis, right? If I go to 3D again, z-axis represents the heights of objects. And the last question, can the view cube allow for the display of perspective views? And the answer is yes. If you right click on one of the coordinates, you can select the view, set the view to perspective. And there you go. Now we have a perspective view of the drawing. If we right click again, we can make a parallel view or isometric view. And so those are the questions and options that we have. Now remember that regarding the workflow of your project, what you need to do is create a new drawing based on the 3D template. Let's do that again. So File, New, Drawing. Select the 3D template and open, and then you are there. Now here, you need to set the units, right? It's very important to do that. If you're doing architecture, then it will be architectural. Then the next step will be to define the view to be parallel. Once I do that, I'm going to do zoom all. And now I am going to right click here again and set the current view as home. Now you start trying to create geometry. One of the ways to do that, as I said before, is to copy and paste your floor plan. That's probably the best or easiest way to do it. So I'm going to do right click, clipboard, copy with base point. Maybe this is my base point. And now you go to your 2D drawing, right? And clipboard and paste. And that's the 3D, that's the profile that I have in 2D. To start creating 3D, remember that we went over the tools that we can use. There are 3 tools that I can use to create geometry from a 2D profile. One is extrude, and the other one is press pull. There's a third tool here that is called polysolid, and that's the one I'm going to use today. So I'm going to select the polysolid tool, and then on the polysolid, I have 3 options or 4 options here. So I'm going to select first the width. Before I do that, let me see what width do I have in this object. So we got there, that's pretty strange. Let's do UCS and plan. And now let's do the dimension. So that's 11.75 inches. And that seems to be, let's see the distance here. 1/6, that's 18 inches actually, for these thick walls. And so I'm going to go back to the 3D, back home. Something's wrong with this AutoCAD. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, it's probably better here. So let's see what's the distance here. 11.25. All right. So I'm going to use the polysolid tool. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the width, and the width is going to be 11.25. Now I'm going to select the height, and the height is going to be 8 feet. So that's defining the wall that I want to create. And now I can select justify. Justify left, right, or center. Let's justify left. And then I can start creating my wall. So I'm going to start again from here because I justify left, and then click there, then click there, then go around with the view cube, and now click here and there, and enter. And I just created the wall. So that's another way to create the geometry that I need by using the polysolid tool. Remember that you have different visual styles here. I like to be in conceptual most of the time, but sometimes, we can be on the realistic or vice versa. So this wall here is going to be, I think, is the same thickness, right? Yes. Oh, that's 11.75. So let's do another polysolid here, right? So select recent input, polysolid, width, and the width now is going to be 11.75. And then I can start from here. Again, I can start from there. And it's really hard to see behind. So maybe now I go back to wireframe, right? So polysolid. And now I can see behind, and click where I need to, right? Done, enter. That wall needs to be thicker actually. So I'm gonna leave it like that because I'm gonna show you a couple other tools today. Shaded with edges or conceptual. And that's how you can create the geometry that you need, right? Remember that then you could actually use, if you had, and let's do another polysolid here. We could create these openings by using some of the tools that we have already reviewed. So the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to go to 2D wireframe, and I want to create this door. I know that the door is going to be this width by 80 inches. So the first thing I do is then I select 3-point UCS, click here for 0, X, and Y. And now I am going to create a 2D object. And that 2D object is going to start here. And then I am going to enter, let's see what the distance is on the X and on this axis here. 310. And so I could do that like this. Like this, sorry. Select the rectangle, click here, and then you can enter 310 on the X, comma, 80 inches on the Y. And that's the 2D profile that is defining that opening. Let's get back to conceptual. Now we know that we are on the 0 right there, so we could use press pull to create an opening. Select press pull, select the boundary, click and press. And now you have that door created. And so that's kind of what you can do that way. Now, there are other ways that we can create geometry like that. Let me create another object here on this other door. So same thing, the same dimension of the door. So I'm going to do rectangle, click on this point, and then 310 on the X, comma, 80 on the Y, and that's that. This time I'm going to use a different tool. I'm going to use the extrude tool. Select this object, press enter, and I'm going to create a solid like that. Let's get back to conceptual. And I can even get back now to world UCS. So I'm back on 0, 0 here at the floor. This object is a solid, and this object is also a solid. Now I'm going to move this object in with ortho on so that it goes through that other object. So today we're going to see how we can also subtract one object from the other. So I'm going to select the subtract tool, subtract from this object, enter this other object and enter. And we can also create an opening that way. So let's undo that. First, I created this object with the extrusion tool. And I'm going to move the tool so that it goes through the object that I want to subtract it from. So now I'm going to select the subtract tool, which is next to this modeling. And select this tool, enter, and now select the solid and press enter. And that's how you can also create that particular opening as well. So as you can see, there are many options in AutoCAD to create the geometry that we need. And so throughout this class, I'm going to be talking about the tools that you can use and give you examples of workflows that you can apply. But at the end of the day, there is no recipe into how to create anything in AutoCAD 3D. You can create the basic tools. You can use the basic tools, extrude, loft, revolve, sweep. You can create 2D profiles and then apply those tools to them. You can also create geometry using the primitives as well. And then combinations of those. There are other series of tools here that allows you to modify those solids. Union, subtract that we just saw, and solid intersect. And we'll be looking at this as we continue to work in AutoCAD 3D. For now, let me create a couple of geometries here with different tools so that you can see what you can do, right? So I'm going to create a geometry here with press pull. First thing I'm going to do again is to bring my UCS here, X and Y, right? And now we use press pull. Once again, if this object is the same size as that, we can just copy it or just create pre-spool again. And so that's what we need to do. Remember that the project that we have working on right now is to, it's called drawing 4. And drawing 4 is to create a 3D model of your project from your previous drawing, right? And so we need to set up the drawing file, and we need to start bringing the views that we want to use for through 2D profiles, and then start creating our project in 3D. Remember that we have a first review on March 10, which is next week, next Wednesday. So for next Wednesday, I like to see as much as you have for the 3D project. That's all for today. Thank you for being here. And I will be back for a lab, open lab, in case anybody's got any questions today at 7:35 in about 5 minutes. Thank you very much. I'll see you then.